Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about a question we occasionally get from non-farmers. What is fertilizer?
Well, what is fertilizer and what isn't fertilizer? And a lot of times when we talk about farming terms, if you're not a farmer, you may be confused by them, or maybe you've heard some different things in other places. Like, for example, with fertilizer, sometimes people equate that with chemical, and these are totally different things.
Yeah, so every once in a while, I'll hear this term. People will say, chemical fertilizer. Farmers using these chemical fertilizers. I don't even know what a chemical fertilizer is, and I've been on the farm my entire life. There's no such thing as a chemical fertilizer. Now, if you want to say that, for example, urea is a chemical fertilizer, well, what does it contain? Carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen? I mean, okay, I guess, but that's not really a chemical in my book. So I would just say what a fertilizer really is, it's plant food. We're putting out nutrients that plants need. And most of the time, these fertilizers, they're really just mined out of the soil. Potassium gets pulled out of the soil, or phosphorus gets pulled out of the soil, or maybe we just take manure that comes from livestock operations, we spread that on the soil. All those things are fertilizers.
Well, we're trying to feed the crop, and I think what gets confusing is with human nutrition, we talk about proteins and carbohydrates and fats, but what are those actually made out of? They're made out of the same things that we're talking about here with fertilizer. They're made out of all the elements that we need to have to feed our bodies and to feed crops.
Yep, so with fertilizer, it is these nutrients. Think about it like kind of like vitamins that a human being may take. But anyway, on top of that, I would say this. A fertilizer technically is also going to be a salt. There's going to be a cation and an anion together. So you're not just getting phosphorus, for example, it's probably phosphate. So there's phosphorus and oxygen, and I mean, you're going to have other things combined, and that's what's going to make a fertilizer that gets applied on a farm.
Now, there is a lot of fertilizer already in the soil. There are a lot of crop nutrients in the soil, but as we're raising crops, we're trying to replace the nutrients that we've taken out of the soil so our soil is just as productive, if not more productive in the future. And sometimes in the media too, we hear, well, our soils are being depleted. I can promise you on our farm that is absolutely not the case. We're taking soil samples to find out how many of these nutrients or fertilizers we need to add back to the soil to raise a nutritious crop.
All right, one last term that I'll throw out. People will talk about regenerative ag and, oh, we're not going to use fertilizer and chemicals and all these kind of things. And it's like, look, farmers have always been regenerative. That's the reason why our yields continue to go up over the years. So it all depends on what your definition of all these different terms is. But our topic today was fertilizer, and fertilizer is simply plant food we're putting out in the soil.
Well, one other thing out in a field that can take away plant nutrients is a weed. And one of those weeds we're going to focus on today is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?